Greetings. So today I'll be working on the collards. You can see these are collard greens. These ones I've harvested them for about 8 months now. They're still viable. I've asked around, most of the farmers who have done this variety have harvested this for over a year. So I believe these ones I still have some more months to harvest. So what I need to do is now properly take care of this. As you can see, of course, in the period that I've been away, the weeds have really overtaken. The weeds have really overgrown, and now that's the first thing I really first have to handle is the weeding. Once I do the weeding, I'll notice that the crop as well is not as healthy. As you can see now, it's producing smaller leaves. And what I'll need to do once after I've done the weeding, I'll need to do the top dressing. I believe now the nutrients that have been in the soil, the compost that I used to plant and all, has been diminished. Because actually with this collards, it's always once, at least a minimum of a monthly top dress. On this one particular crop, I've not done the top dress for a while, and to add to that again, the weeds seem to have really eaten up the nutrients that have been available. So I really need to start by working on the weeding, clear the weeds, work on then later on I'll do the top dressing. I can also notice that there's some fungal infections on the leaves. So what I'll do first is prune out. I'll be pruning out the affected leaves, so to ensure that there's no more spread of the disease. Once that's done, I'll be topping up foliar. Through the foliar, I'll be doing seaweed. So this helps with stress management, probably anything that has been occasioned by the weed stress, as well as the disease. So once I do the basal top dress on the soil, I'll do a basal fertilizer, and then complement that with a foliar fertilizer as well. And the other one will be a copper fertilizer, to be able to, which really works well as a preventative measure for, it suppresses the spread of fungal diseases. So I hope with that, the crop will be able to, come back up, and will have nice large leaves, during the harvest. So let's get to it. I've started with the weeding. Surprisingly, but this is not a recommendation, I'm not recommending this, but surprisingly I find it easier to during weeding, when the weeds are this overgrown. I find it easier to do the weeding when the weeds are this overgrown, as opposed to when the weeds you have the tiny weeds, which makes it difficult to do the weeding. But when the weeds are this grown, it's easy just pulling them out. But this is not a recommendation that not recommend that you let this weed be overgrow like this. It's always good to maintain a clean farm, weed free, to ensure that the crop that you planted benefits from all the nutrients that are available, instead of competing with the weeds, and also to ensure that you don't have any pests and diseases by letting the weeds overgrow. Actually, the best would be doing like a weekly weeding. Best time to do the weeding is actually when even the weed is not that visible, at the thread stage. And so you can just easily, even using your hands, just slightly disturb the soil, and with that, even the upcoming weed, there will be no growth of the weeds immediately. Even if it's every week, just come slightly, even with your hand, or a slight, you can slight scraping tool, disturb the soil slightly. So whatever weeds that were emerging at that thread stage, when you disturb the soil, they come up, and probably the heat by the sun, they'll die off. And with that, you'll notice that the weed population will significantly go down. So here, let me try and eliminate this part. The problem it is now, and this is always something that try to avoid, the weed going to seed, flowering and seeding. So that means introducing now more weeds on this. But I'll try now as much as possible to control this, not to let the weeds grow. Once I'm done with this, I'll now repeat the same. Come and disturb the soil every week, and this will ensure that the weeds don't come back up. So let's proceed. I'm progressing on well. I'm almost done with the weeding. But as I was doing that, I have some visitors on the farm. Some tiny but dangerous visitors here. Some safarians. I have some safarians, so I need to be vigilant and careful where I'm stepping and how I'm handling, so that I don't get attacked by the ants. I also don't disturb them, so that I can be able to proceed and finish with what I was working on. So this is just by the way. Let me just finish up with the weeding. So now you can proceed with the other task of pruning and top dressing. Now I'm done with the weeding. You can see already there is a very huge difference. Things are looking much cleaner now. Now things are looking cleaner. Now I'm going to try as much as possible to maintain this cleanliness. I'm not going to let the weeds overrun the crop again. So I'll be doing by ensuring at least I do a weekly weeding, and if the weeds are not visible, try as much as possible to maintain a clean garden, so that can maximize on the production of the collards. Next, now I want to work on the pruning of these infected leaves, so that I can only leave the healthy ones. Then once I'm done with the pruning of these infected leaves, I'll do a foliar spray for seaweed, so that I can be able to withstand the stress that was due to the weed and again the disease infestation. Then with that also I also do an NPK foliar spray, and in addition to that an NPK basal fertilizer. So you see again here another challenge you get. You see all these holes you are getting on the leaves. Here is our culprit, slugs. We are getting a huge problem here with of slugs and snails that have been eating up our collards and cabbages. So that's why you can see all these holes here. These are as a result of the slugs and then these yellowish leaves. These are the fungal infection. I'll be getting rid of these infected leaves. So for the slugs, I just manually remove them as I do in my daily routine scouting. Once I spot them, I remove them, because to avoid the further damage of the crop. So before I can do the top dress using the basal fertilizer NPK, so it's important to ensure that at least the soil is moist enough. That so that's why I've opened up the drip taps, the drip lines, to water the plants and ensure the soil is well moist, well watered. The plants are well watered and the soil is moist, so that the fertilizer can be absorbed easily. So I'm going to keep this watered for a few hours to ensure that the soil is quite dry. So I want to ensure that it is well watered and the entire bed is soaked. So I'm going to keep this watered for a few hours. But now next I come and when I come to do the top dress, the bed will be well watered. There you go. Ensure that all the drips are, all the emitters are, bring out some water. Ensure that there is no emitter that is blocked, so that at least the entire bed can be well watered. So let me proceed with the pruning, with the pruning of the leaves. So before, as the crop is being watered. So as I was watering the beds, so that I can ensure that the soil is moist for the top dressing, got lucky, got some rains, unexpected rains, and it was quite substantial amount of rain. As you can see now, the entire bed is well watered. Now I can very easily do my top dress. But first, let me finish up with the pruning. Then now I can proceed with the top dressing. So with my interactions with the various farmers on various platforms, I've seen some farmers complain about the duration in which they harvest their collards. Some have complained that their collards die off after a very short period. Some even 3 months or 4 months, the crop dies off. What I realized mostly the problem is, especially this such a variety like this that has quite some short nodes from the stem, is the harvesting method. So the way they harvest, just by pulling off the stem, that injures the stem and leads to exposing the plant to fungal infections such as soft rot, which leads to the stem rotting, and eventually the plant dies off. So the technique here, when you harvesting the crop, you don't just pull off the leaf. You slightly pinch a few centimeters off the stem. You slightly pinch and break off the leaf, leaving a small node, which will eventually, as the crop grows, which will eventually it will dry off and drop off. So you can see I started harvesting this crop from down here. Yeah. So as I leave it, as it dries, it drops off, and the plant continues to generate new leaves. So while harvesting, just pinch off a bit, and then leave a section. You leave something, a small bit, so that you don't directly pull out the from the stem and injuring the stem. And some of this is occasioned by by farmers not having time to take care of their plants. At times, if you've employed someone on your farm, it's always good to train them, especially on the harvesting, because you spend so much time and money and effort to bring your crop to that level of harvesting, and you don't have to just compromise a few during the harvesting and have your crop destroyed, or have harvest it for a short time. Some even allow, when maybe during the harvesting, when they get vendors coming to the farm, and let the vendors harvest for themselves. Some of these vendors don't actually care. All they need is the product, so they'll come probably in a hurry, just pull out the leaves in a hurry, and result into damaging your crop. So as you run for that quick buck, you might end up losing your crop, and you lose out more eventually. So it's either you take care of your own, or you do it yourself, or if you employ someone, make sure they're well trained on how to harvest the crop, so they can harvest it for long, which will result, of course, you'll have more profits out of that, instead of as compared to if you lose out the crop in a short period. Because you can imagine that difference. One plants this, because you see there's that 1 month in a nursery, then when you start harvesting, you lose the crop maybe at about 3 months. See, that's a huge loss, and it's a crop that you can harvest even for a year. So we did think we need to be vigilant on that, to ensure we can maximize on the yields as well as the profits that we get from our crops. So let me proceed with the pruning. I'm done with the pruning, all set. Everything now looks clean. I've gotten rid of all the affected and infected leaves, so now everything is clean. So you might be wondering what will happen to the to what I've harvested. Nothing goes to waste here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be feeding this damaged leaves to the chicken, which then later on I'll be where I get my manure from. So it's beneficial. It's a two-way, nothing goes to waste here. So I'm going to use these leaves to feed the chicken. Then I'm going to later on get the manure, which I use to incorporate into the compost that I'm generating. So all the matter that I got here from the weeds that I got, now I'm going to use that, mix up probably with some wood shavings, for the carbon, and then now with the manure from the chicken, and make some very rich compost, which I'm going to be using now bring back to the farm, for healthier and more, to increase the yields of the crop. So nothing goes to waste. So these I'm going to be feeding to my chicken. If you don't have livestock on your farm, that's nothing to worry about. You can actually directly incorporate this matter that you're generating into the compost. So for the top dressing, I'll be using this NPK fertilizer that has various percentages of the nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. So most farmers, especially these leafy greens, because they are very heavy feeders, the cabbages, like the such collards, of course, because remember there's the weekly harvesting, weekly or bi-weekly harvesting, and you need always the leaves to regrow, regenerate more leaves, healthy leaves. So with all that, it really needs, it's a heavy feeder. And one of the main for the leaves, most of the people mainly concentrate on the nitrogen bit. Of course, yes, the nitrogen helps in the the growth of a large and the leafy part. But at times, it's always good to have also a balanced nutrition for the crop. So in this case, at times I do, fertilizer rich in nitrogen, but this time around, I'm doing an NPK with various percentages of the nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, so that I can at least have a slightly almost a balanced nutrition for the crop. So in this NPK, it has those additional elements that is sulfur, magnesium, zinc. So these extra elements plus the the nitrogen, the phosphorus, and potassium, you have a healthier crop. You'll notice even the leaves are darker green. They taste better, So this balanced nutrition does a lot. It will improve your yields. Your crop will also, have a longer shelf life. Whatever the crop, even the fruiting vegetables and all that, if you good nutrition, it will lead to a good yields. The crop will last longer. It will taste better, and it will store better. Yeah, compared to where the crop didn't have get a balanced nutrition. So let me proceed to the top dress. So I'll be doing 10 grams of the fertilizer per stem. I'm using this bottle cap measure, and approximately 10 grams per stem. On each stem, I'll be topping up 10 grams of this fertilizer. Yeah, I'm done with the top dress. Remember, I've just done 10 grams per stem using the bottle cap as a measuring unit. You can see that fertilizer has already started slowly dissolving into the soil. Yeah, you remember the soil was moist. Lucky enough, we had watered, and luckily also got some rain. So the fertilizer will slowly dissolve, break down. However, at times, depending on the type of fertilizer, some fertilizers take time to dissolve. I actually incorporate them into the soil using directly incorporate them into the soil while doing the top dress. But for this one, I've just done it on top, and it will slowly break down, and get dissolved into the soil. However, because just to avoid the leaching, because either scorching from the sun or leaching, just in case I'm not so sure because of the weather, it gets some more rains as we did. So what I do is I get a watering can and gently water on top of this fertilizer, and what that does, it helps it speeds up the breakdown. It breaks down the fertilizer and incorporates it into the soil. Yeah, you may notice now that most of the fertilizer has been broken down and fully incorporated into the soil. Just by watering using the overhead, using the watering can, I've managed to most of the fertilizer. So of course there are some areas little has been left, but most of it has broken down and has fully been incorporated into the soil. So at least I'm sure none of it will be scorched, bleached through the sun from the sun. And if it rains now, probably the rest, the few specks that are remaining, will be fully incorporated. And if that's not the case, I might redo the watering, overhead watering, using the watering can again tomorrow to ensure that most, even not all of the fertilizer is fully incorporated into the soil. So that's how I go about it to ensure that the top dress, the fertilizer I've done as the top dress is not washed away. So there we go. I've finished with I'm done with the weeding, I'm done with the pruning, and I'm done with the top dressing as well. So the few other activities that are remaining, that is the foliar feeding through the foliar feeding, foliar fertilization. I think that I'm going to do in another day. So I think for today I'm going to call it a day and leave it at that. So thank you for watching. Till the next one, happy farming.